Hey guys, it's Jack here. Welcome back to another video. I am joined by my dad today. Say hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad.
And today we're going to be talking about the new Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends ZA, and just its overall bad quality, but also how this could kind of affect the gaming industry altogether.
Are we just talking about Pokemon, or are we generally talking about games and quality and?
Well, what I'm thinking is we use Pokemon as the primary example because it's the current sloppy big game situation people are talking about.
Okay.
And we'll use it as a jumping off point.
Okay, that sounds good.
So I don't know how much you know about the new Pokemon game Legends ZA, but it's at the point where it's being widely talked about for just being really, really crappy and low budget. Apparently, the budget was leaked, and it was apparently 12 million.
Okay, $12 million. Well, we did a little research earlier that some of the other AAA games, like some of the Call of Duty titles, they're in the like 400, 600,
Yeah.
$700 million per game.
Like-
Ragnarok, God of War, I think that was like 400 or 600. It was up there.
Something crazy. Even Breath of the Wild, I think, was estimated to be
Yeah.
what, almost 100 million.
At least 100 million, yeah. So right, so if you got a game that's 12 million, I mean $12 million is still millions of dollars, but
But
you
yeah,
can tell
compared to other
yeah.
AAA games, even Nintendo's AAA games, it's vastly lower in budget.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. Like they're intentionally keeping the budget low so they can maximize profits.
Yeah.
But Pokemon, I'm pretty sure it's the best-selling IP ever, right? If I'm not mistaken.
IP, I don't know. It might be.
Or the best-selling gaming.
I mean,
it's the best-selling
given,
something.
Given that they're making the games on the cheap and they're selling them at premium prices, their profit margin has to be huge.
Yeah.
The thing I never understood about the Pokemon games, and this goes all the way back, so I don't think this is new, at least not for me, is I don't think they've never been good games. They kind of copied the early RPG style of like Final Fantasy or King's or Dragon Quest from back in the day, but they made them simpler. The stories aren't as interesting. The graphics have never really evolved. You know, they've gotten upgrades from system to system, but they're nothing special.
Oh, here's where I think the disconnect happens. The like 80% of Pokemon's lifespan has been on handhelds,
Yeah,
meaning when the games release, they're on a handheld device, so naturally they're not going to be as high quality,
Right.
and also they're cheaper than Nintendo's main console games.
right.
So they've taken the same quality of game and are putting it on a main console and charging higher prices. Like
Okay.
you weren't paying a full price game back in the 3DS and DS era. The games were not nearly as much as a full price game.
Well, they were full price for that system,
for that system, yes, but the
which
point
was cheaper than
Yeah.
like their main. Yeah.
so it's not like they were always held to a lower standard, but now the prices have been jacked up to normal AAA game
Well, and also
prices.
the gameplay itself
Yeah.
was like, I think you get a pass when you're on a handheld. At least back then you did, right? No one expected some amazing 3D experience from the original DS.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But that's the thing that kind of boggles my mind is, yet not that they haven't gotten upgrades with the Switch and the Switch 2 and things like that, but it's not commensurate, right? Like the gameplay is pretty much the same as you got on the old DS.
I mean, they have had innovations, but to the core of it, a lot of the gameplay loop is kind of the same. Even though they've changed the battle system up in recent years, it's still, I don't find it actually to be interesting. I don't find it to be interesting changes.
Yeah.
And with the new Pokemon game specifically, like, I don't know if you heard, but it's quote unquote open world.
Oh, no, I haven't
But
heard that.
it takes place in one city.
Okay.
That you can't enter the buildings, and the walls of the buildings are just like apparently flat textures.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a GTA 3 open world,
Yeah.
right? Which was at the time was amazing, but now you play it and you go like, oh, it's like a half-baked game.
But the thing is, I don't understand how you can defend that when you have Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom on the
Sure,
Switch.
yeah.
That Nintendo has proven they can make huge, amazing open worlds. There is no reason why Pokemon can't do the same.
Well, I think in general, Nintendo fans, I mean, Nintendo people have bought Super Mario 5, 6, 7, 8 times. I mean, Mario Kart, what's Mario Kart 8 was basically an evolution of 7, right? Like it
Well, Mario Kart 8 was on the Wii U, and then they had 8 Deluxe
8
for the
Deluxe,
Switch.
right.
And then they had DLC for 8 Deluxe that was reused tracks from other games.
Right. So people have bought the same games over and over and over again. So in general, I think Nintendo fans, they're fans of Nintendo, and so they're willing to kind of. It's almost like Disney fans, right? People will have bought the movies on VHS and DVD, and then they sign up for Disney Plus and they go to the theme park. Like I think Nintendo is similar, but then when you get to Pokemon, that's like a whole other level. Like I think the fan base, but I think they also have a tolerance for like if they weren't buying the games, Nintendo couldn't get away with it.
I've heard people compare like Nintendo fanboys to like Disney adults, kind of like what you were
I could
doing.
see that. But I mean,
like,
think about even going back to those handheld days, right? When they were genius when they came up with the two games for one, right? I don't know what Sword and Shield and what was it, Pearl and.
Well, it's not 2 games for one. It's 2 games for the price of 2. It's one for the price of 2.
I meant two games per release.
Oh yeah.
But it's like it's like as someone who's not a fanboy, I can't imagine paying full price for 2 games that have 98% of the same game.
Yeah, people accept it for Pokemon, but I guarantee you, if Call of Duty did that, where it's like depending on which one you bought, you were either playing a different a different faction.
Yeah.
People wouldn't buy that.
Not if it was full price. I mean, people. It's getting to the point where people will pay ridiculous things for ridiculous things.
The things that crack me up the most is when you go into like GameStop or Target and you see the 2 new Pokemon games bundled together, and you're like, oh, they're bundled together. There's probably a discount.
No.
There's not.
Right.
They just literally took the 2 cases, put them in one box, but still charged like the price of adding them up.
Well,
if
you are getting the cardboard box that combines them for free.
Oh well, yeah, of course that makes sense. But the thing that worries me is if Nintendo can get away with selling a really cheap game, like this for $70, why like the other bigger game companies like Call of Duty and the other AAA games are going to be like, if Nintendo can get away with selling this slop for $70, why can't we charge $100 for Call of Duty?
Yeah, well, I think those days are coming. I don't know that they're looking at Nintendo as the model, but I think they are looking at, there's been recent games, and off the top of my head, I probably can't name specific ones, but for years, Call of Duty, right? You've had the base version, then there's the deluxe version, then they've had versions where you get, a statue that comes with it. So they've kind of been priming the audience for these different tiers of purchases. It won't be surprising to me to see games take another. I think what you're going to see with GTA 6 is it's going to be there's going to be a hefty price tag on that. I don't think there's going to be a basic version. I think the basic version is probably going to be like $100. That would be a good guess.
Wouldn't be surprised. And the thing is, I want to say that is like horrible. I mean, it is horrible pricing for consumers, but I mean, you can't. It's hard to blame the company Rockstar. Like, if they did that, it's hard to blame them.
Sure.
When consumers are enabling Nintendo to sell slop for $70.
Yeah.
The thing is, the consumers are enabling it. They would only do that if they are confident the consumers will pay.
My thing, and not that my opinion has ever mattered to anybody in the video game industry, but like, I've been a fan of Call of Duty for years. Now, the last couple, especially the last Black Ops, like it's gotten repetitive. It's gotten too cartoonish. It wasn't as much fun. So I don't know if I'm going to get the next one. But for a stretch there, I was buying every release every year. That kind of like the Pokemon, right? The gameplay is very similar. You said this earlier to me, right? I'm almost buying the same game. It's not, there's different missions, the stories, but the gameplay was always engaging enough for me that it didn't matter. But I also would look at it like I didn't mind paying full price for Call of Duty because for that price, I got a single player game, I got a multiplayer game, except for Black Ops 4, but I got which didn't have a single player game, but I got single player, multiplayer. Sometimes I got zombies. So like that $60 or $70 I invested, I played that game the whole year. Versus other games that I'd pay $60 or $70 for, I'd play it for a couple weeks or a couple months, I'd beat it, and then it's done. Mm-hmm. Like, I always thought value for money should be hours, like fun hours, not grinding hours.
But to build on your point, like you just said, you're considering not getting the new Call of Duty.
Yeah.
The thing with Pokemon fans is a lot of the super fans, or the vast majority of the fans actually, don't have that mindset.
Well,
Because, like, the thing is, the Pokemon games over the past few years, in my opinion, and in most level-headed people's opinions, the quality has severely dropped. The amount of content in the game has also dropped as well.
Yeah.
There's not as much hours you can sink into it. The difference is, you as a longtime Call of Duty fan, you're considering not getting the next game in your franchise.
Yeah.
A lot of the big Nintendo fans, they don't care when quality drops.
sure. So here's my question to you, though. Why is this topic, especially related to Pokemon, why do you care?
Because I've been a longtime fan of Pokemon. I played like all the 3DS ones. I played the first couple on the Switch, and then they just started getting really bad and not fun, and just the experience of the newer games has been far worse than the older games.
Yep.
So it pisses me off that other Pokemon fans are enabling Nintendo to keep doing this crap when I just want to see the full potential of the Nintendo Switch used on a Pokemon game.
I see. So you would like a top tier Pokemon
Yeah.
game.
Like, seeing
Okay.
Breath of the Wild and then looking at what Pokemon's doing, it really makes me mad because I want that Breath of the Wild experience from a Pokemon game.
Yeah.
I want that super good premium game.
So how long do you think? So here's my theory. I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but like using myself as an example, long time Call of Duty fan. I'm not angry at them, right? I'm not disappointed. Do I wish there was a new game coming out that I was excited about? Sure.
Well, the difference is,
But, like, I've kind of, like-
you know they will bounce back.
Well, I don't know that actually because the way things are going, I don't know. Like, there's been a trend even with multiplayer, for example, where I'm not the target audience. The target audience is people who are younger, friends who play together, right? To really be competitive in multiplayer, the days of just logging on a Friday night and actually having a fun time where you don't get your butt kicked, those days are gone. I've been able to be good enough that I can still have fun, but like it's been getting harder. But like I don't have that anger. There was a point in time where like, yeah, I was ticked when I didn't like something about the game, but I'm just at a point now where it's like, you know what? I'll either find another game that I like, they'll bounce back, or they won't, or I'll play my guitar instead of playing PlayStation. That's
fair
fine
enough.
too. But so I'm just what I'm hearing from you is you're kind of at that point where like you have that fandom from when you were younger, you want it to continue, and you're kind of wrestling with like, do I have to give up on Pokemon?
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Because the thing is, I'm mad at Nintendo and Game Freak, the developers of Pokemon.
Yeah.
But I almost want to say I'm more mad at the Nintendo super fans.
Yeah.
Because they're just enabling it. Like,
Sure.
Can you blame Nintendo for cutting corners on Pokemon games when they're a business and a business's goal is profit?
Well, I would say if you want to zero in on Pokemon, it's more than just the games. I mean, you collect the Pokemon cards. Now, you when you were younger, you were way more into it. I know you still do, and you have a pretty robust collection. You've got some pretty like rare cards
Yeah, I
as
do.
well. I know. But if you look at all the look at your whole set, all the cards that you just think are like the ones that you don't put into special cases and stuff like that, I would say for every card where clearly they put a lot of time and attention into the art, into the design of the card, there's like 30 other cards that look like a middle schooler drew a picture in art class. Right.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Right. And so when I look at that, I think by and large, the whole Pokemon thing, they've kind of fell into it. And my take is the whole brand of Pokemon, they've been forever been balancing this, like, let's not really invest any more than we have to. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they've never really been trying to make it the best it could be. They've been trying to make as much money off of it as they could.
Want to know the other thing why I hate Nintendo right now for Pokemon?
Why?
Did you hear what they're doing with they're trying to patent monster catching
No.
and battling with monsters. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how
They're trying to patent that.
going to win that one.
I don't know either, but
I mean, Pokemon wasn't there's like a bazillion. The Monster Hunter franchise, for example, fits that description.
yeah, it's crazy what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
If they do theoretically win, then that means no one else can innovate in that genre.
Yeah.
And Pokemon will have the sole monopoly and keep making crap games.
I gotta imagine that I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but that seems like a hard. I mean, the whole Pokemon
It's also probably
thing,
an intimidation tactic
like,
too.
but Pokemon came from the guy that created Pokemon. I forget his name. He was a bug collector. He collected insects. You know, and he used to capture them. You know, pin. You ever see like an insect collector? They,
Yeah,
like,
the
they pin them to
boxes,
boards
the
and stuff
board,
like
yeah.
that. Like that was his inspiration, was like collecting bugs, collecting samples and specimens, and he turned it into Pokemon. So like Pokemon is derivative of an actual hobby that people have had for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how just because it's monsters, even monster like that
Or
seems way too
creatures,
broad.
yeah.
Yeah, that seems way too broad. That'd be
Like,
interesting though.
even if it got more specific, like putting creatures in little capsules and then releasing them, even though that's more specific, I don't even think you could go that far.
Yeah,
Or you should be. I don't think you should be allowed to go that
I
far.
think if they could patent or copyright or something, some part of it, it probably is so narrow that
It wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know, and for me, part of this topic, I find it interesting intellectually, but like I'll admit, I've never been a fan of Pokemon. You know, the game.
Yeah.
Like none of the game. I've never looked at a Pokemon game and said, oh, I gotta play that.
Yeah. Because
Ever.
the worst thing about Pokemon is there have been plenty of game series where they have a couple bad entries.
Yeah.
Fans complain, they change things up. It's good. Then good games come out of it. Pokemon, the entries are going downhill,
Yeah.
but because the fans don't care, it's not gonna change.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why why the quote unquote fans of Pokemon are defending it so closely. Like, if you're a fan of something, it means you love that series
Yeah.
or that thing. If you truly loved Pokemon, you should stand up for
Yeah.
it when it's not given the treatment it deserves.
I mean,
a fan doesn't mean you defend it like it's your own life.
It might just be the case though that if the majority of the fans are okay with it, you know, it's a subjective thing. Your opinion, you know, you see potential that they don't care about. You know, it doesn't mean you're right and they're wrong, or they're right and you're wrong. Just maybe what this is making me think of is, I grew up with, like, you know, gosh, I'm too old, but like we had Atari, and we had like very early into the invention of home video game consoles. You know, back when it was just like a dot on a screen moving around. They started to come up with these like movie tie-ins. Like there was E.T. the game. There was, you know, like movies would come out and there'd be a video game that came with it, right? Whether that was the Atari, whether that was the original NES or the Super NES, there was sort of this merchandising timing thing where it's like, hey, there's a new movie coming out. We're gonna make the video game version, and most of those games were garbage, right? The graphics, the gameplay was either derivative or simple or stupid or had nothing to do with the movie, or it just looked. But I was a fan of Terminator 2, so I had the Terminator 2 NES game. That one was actually kind of fun, but it was not a great game by many standards. And so, like, over the years, I got conditioned just to expect tie-in games tend to suck. The best games I ever played were games that were games first, not an IP first, and then they made the game of it.
Right.
I think as time has gone on, that whole movie tie-in has kind of subsided. You still see them from time to time, but it's not as prevalent as it used to be. I think what you have now is things like Dragon Ball games or Pokemon games, or, you know, like it's like an IP type thing. And I think you're still seeing some of that. I think my view of the Pokemon games, as someone who's not a fan and doesn't play them and has never, if it was a good game, I'd be interested, whether or not it was Pokemon. My take is, they've got the IP. They're kind of like, how can we milk their fan base for a little bit more money?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's no longer like, we have this great idea of Pokemon, let's try and make a video game.
Right.
It's more like, we own Pokemon and we can rake in more cash
Yep.
by having a game, but let's try and make that game as cheap.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about making the game. It's about, like, it's no longer about making a good game with this idea of Pokemon. It's like, they have the golden goose.
Yep.
And now they're just going to use it to produce anything that can make them money.
Yeah. It in some ways, it's similar in Hollywood. What happens sometimes with sequels is they'll take a script that was an original script that had nothing to do with the franchise, and they'll adapt it to make it a sequel to a franchise that exists. So it'll be like it could be the next, you know, Friday the 13th movie. It wasn't written to be a Friday the 13th movie, but they make the bad guy Freddy, or Jason in this case, and make it take place in Crystal Lake or whatever, and suddenly that's what it is, or it's Friday the 13th is probably bad because it's such a formulaic thing. But there'll be like a lot of horror movies do it, where they'll say, oh well, we'll take this haunted house story, and now we'll bring in these characters from The Conjuring, and now it's a Conjuring movie, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, so if it was a good movie in its own right, it can make a good sequel. It could stand on its own. But like, I think the same thing kind of happens with games, where it's like, if it was a good game in its own right, you could attach an IP to it, and that could make it better for a certain audience, but it's still a good game. But if you start with the IP and you're just like, oh, how do we make a game about this? You're probably going to end up with something uninspired and, at best derivative, at worst boring.
Yeah, exactly. So before we end this conversation, do you think that of course, I'm sure this isn't going to happen, but if the entire Pokemon fan base suddenly started criticizing the game, do you think that would be enough to make change?
If they stop buying it. Criticizing is not enough, because at the end of the day, as long as they're making money, they don't care, right? Like because there could be a thing where everyone's like, the game's so bad, I got to see it to believe it. But if you can buy it all you want. If you complain on the internet, you still bought it.
Right. So they got to stop buying it.
Yeah. They got to show that they're not going to put up with it because it's not going to get their money.
I mean, I think Pokemon's so far gone that you need like a full-on boycott. Like, it's gone off the deep end. Like, it's not like there's been a couple like mediocre entries. Like, they've just been like so low quality.
Here's what could happen.
Like, even if another 20% of people stopped buying them, they would still be making so much money. I don't think that they would care.
Well, what I think could happen that hasn't happened before, so the likelihood may be low, but like, let's say Nintendo comes out with another system. There's usually some kind of flagship game or a couple games with this system. Like when the Switch came out, right? There was
it was Mario.
Super Mario Odyssey. They did have the port of Mario Kart.
Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild, right? If they came out with a new system and they launched it with a Pokemon game, that Pokemon game would probably be like a AAA tier game.
Yeah. Well, the Switch 2 did it with Mario Kart.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
And even that game got a lot of complaints.
Yeah. But I think that's the way that it could happen, whereas if they decided that they're going to make Pokemon a flagship launch title, it would get more attention. Oh, on the other hand, they've never done that before, so they could also say it's a launch title and churn out the same type of crap that they've been churning out. And if the audience is there, then it was a good move, right? From a business perspective, they're trying to maximize their profits. If they only spend $12 million versus $100 million, and they can sell the game for the same price, and they're going to sell as many or more copies, like that's printing money.
Yeah, like for me, at the end of the day, I can blame Nintendo all I want, but at the end of the day, it's the consumer that enables it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and my advice to you would just be like, at some point, it may be time to wrestle with the fact that like Pokemon, or at least Pokemon video games, like you can be a Pokemon fan and you're not, don't expect to get the game,
Well, it's also just annoying because like I almost would rather see them like take a break from Pokemon games for 20 years or just stop making them than do what they're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's lots of other games out there.
It's true. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys.